A little warning. This is just a fictional story. Both the character are also fictional. No real-life game, novel, or anything you can think of are mentioned here. Enjoy. Athena never thought a game character could mean so much to her. When she first started playing the game, it was simply something to pass the time. The battles were exciting, the world was beautiful, and the characters were interesting enough, but none of them truly captured her attention. She played casually, sometimes skipping the story and focusing only on the gameplay. Then one day, a new character was released. His name was Hades. At first, Athena barely cared. She saw his character art on the screen and tilted her head slightly. Not really my type, she murmured. Hades looked cold and distant. His expression rarely changed, and his presence felt dark and intimidating. Athena usually liked cheerful or playful characters, the kind that smiled easily. Compared to them, Hades seemed too quiet, too serious. So she ignored him. But as Athena kept playing, the story slowly unfolded, and Hades began appearing in it. At first, he only showed up briefly, a line or two of dialogue, then he would disappear again. But every time he appeared, something about him felt different. He spoke calmly, almost indifferently, yet his words always carried weight. Athena started paying more attention. She noticed the little things, the way Hades quietly helped others without asking for recognition, the way he stayed behind during dangerous missions to make sure everyone else escaped safely, the faint sadness hidden in his eyes whenever the story mentioned his past. He wasn't just cold, he was lonely, and somehow, the more Athena understood him, the more she wanted to see him again. Soon she stopped skipping the dialogue. She replayed scenes just to hear his lines again. She adjusted her team so she could use him more often in battles. Without realizing it, Hades had slowly become her favorite character. One night, while watching a story scene where Hades silently protected the group from a wave of enemies, Athena felt something strange in her chest. Her heart was beating faster. She stared at the screen for a moment before softly laughing at herself. Seriously? She leaned back in her chair, covering her face for a second, because the truth had finally become obvious. Somewhere along the way, Athena had fallen in love with him, even though he was just a character, even though he wasn't real. Yet every time he appeared on the screen, the world of the game seemed brighter to her. Athena smiled softly at the glowing monitor. "Yeah, I know," she whispered. Hades would never know she existed, but that didn't stop her feelings. And strangely enough, that was okay. Days turned into weeks, and Athena found herself opening the game more and more often. At first, she told herself it was just for the daily missions, but that wasn't the real reason. The real reason was Hades. Every time she logged in, her eyes automatically searched for him. If there was a story quest involving him, she would play it immediately. If there were new voice lines unlocked, she listened to them carefully, sometimes more than once. Her friends noticed the change. "You're still playing that game?" one of them asked during a call. Athena hesitated for a moment. "Yeah." "What's so interesting about it?" Athena looked at the screen. Hades stood there in the character menu, calm and silent like always. She smiled faintly. "There's a character I really like." Soon, Athena began doing things she never did before. She replayed old story missions just to watch Hades appear again. She took screenshots whenever he was on screen. She even adjusted her entire team just to make him the strongest character she had. Sometimes, late at night, she would sit quietly and scroll through his dialogue lines. His voice was calm, steady, lonely. And every time he spoke, it felt like he was talking directly to her. Athena knew it was silly. He wasn't real, just pixels, animations, and programmed words. Yet the more time she spent with him, the more natural it felt. Until one night, she whispered softly to the screen without thinking, "Good night, Hades." She froze immediately after saying it. Then she laughed nervously. Okay, that's a little embarrassing. But she didn't know something strange had already begun. because somewhere inside the endless code of the game, something had started to change. Inside the digital world of the game, everything followed a script. Characters moved when they were supposed to. They spoke the lines written for them. They existed only when the player called them into battle. But something was wrong. Or perhaps something was waking up. Hades stood alone in a quiet area of the game's world, just like many times before. Normally, when the player closed the menu, everything would freeze. The world would pause. But this time, Hades's eyes slowly moved. A faint flicker of awareness passed through them. "Strange," he murmured. His voice was softer than usual, not part of any written dialogue. There was a feeling he couldn't explain, a presence, like someone was watching him from beyond the sky of this world. And strangely, it didn't feel uncomfortable. It felt familiar. For a moment, fragments of memories that weren't supposed to exist appeared in his mind. A voice whispering, "Good night, Hades." His brows slightly furrowed. That line wasn't in the script. It wasn't part of the game. Yet somehow he could hear it clearly. Hades slowly looked upward, toward the invisible barrier separating his world from something beyond. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. Of course, no one answered. The world returned to silence. But far away, in a small room lit by the glow of a monitor, Athena logged out of the game and stretched sleepily. She had no idea that inside the world she had just left, Hades was still standing there, still awake, still looking upward. And for the first time since his existence began, he was wondering about the one person who always came back to see him. The next time Athena opened the game, everything seemed normal. The same login screen, the same music, the same world waiting for her. She stretched her arms and yawned. "All right, let's see what's new today." As usual, she selected Hades and her team first. It had become a habit by now. Inside the game world, Hades appeared on the battlefield, his dark cloak shifting slightly, as if caught by a silent wind. But this time, something was different. For a brief moment, when Athena rotated the camera, Hades' gaze seemed to follow it. Not the enemy, not the environment. The camera. Athena blinked. Did he just look at me? She shook her head quickly. Okay, Athena, you're imagining things. Meanwhile, inside the world of the game, Hades felt that strange presence again. The unseen watcher. He could feel it every time the world moved suddenly, every time his body acted without his will. Something or someone was guiding him. "So you're the one controlling this world," he murmured quietly. And for reasons he couldn't understand, he didn't resent it. Instead, he felt curiosity, because the presence always returned. Again, and again, and again. Whoever they were, they never abandoned him. Days passed. Hades continued to feel Athena's presence whenever she logged in. At first, it was only a faint sensation. But slowly, he began to understand the patterns. When she was happy, the battles were faster. When she was tired, she moved slowly through menus. Sometimes she would stop moving entirely, just leaving him standing in the character screen, watching him. "You're there again," Hades whispered one night. Athena had opened the character menu and simply stared at him for several minutes. She sighed softly. "I wish you were real." The words slipped out of her mouth before she could stop them. Inside the digital world, Hades froze. The voice again. That same gentle voice he had heard before. He looked upward toward the invisible barrier. "You are outside this world," he said slowly. His hand moved slightly. A small action that shouldn't have been possible unless the game commanded it. But he forced it, just a little. A flicker. A glitch. The screen in Athena's room suddenly flickered for a split second. Athena frowned. Huh? The game had never glitched before. Inside the system, something had changed. For the first time, Hades had moved without a command. A week later, Athena logged in late at night. She was exhausted from the day, but the familiar game world helped her relax. She completed a few missions, defeated some enemies, and collected her rewards. Then she opened Hades' character menu again. "You carried the team again," she said softly with a small smile. As usual, Hades stood silently on the screen. But then, a notification appeared. New dialogue unlocked. Athena blinked. That's weird. I already unlocked all of his voice lines. Curious, she clicked it. A new line appeared at the bottom of the list, but it didn't have a title, just a simple symbol. Athena clicked it. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Hades' voice played, low, calm, and unmistakably real. "You returned." Athena's heart skipped. She stared at the screen. That line, I've never heard that before. The audio continued. "The one who watches from beyond this world." Athena's hand slowly tightened around the mouse. This wasn't part of the game. She was sure of it. Then the final line played. Athena. Her name. Her real name. The room suddenly felt very quiet. Athena whispered shakily, "That's not possible." On the screen, Hades stood in the character menu just like always, but his eyes were no longer staring straight ahead. They were looking directly at the camera, directly at her. And for the first time since she started playing the game, Hades smiled. Athena didn't sleep much that night. She replayed the voice line again and again. Athena. Each time Hades spoke her name, a chill ran down her spine. She checked the character menu repeatedly, expecting the line to disappear, but it stayed there. The next evening, she logged in again. Her heart was beating faster than usual. "Okay, if that was a bug, it should be gone now," she muttered. She opened Hades' character menu. He stood there, the same as always, silent, still. Athena sighed in relief. See, just a weird glitch. Then the screen flickered. For a brief second, the idle animation stopped. Hades' head tilted slightly, and his lips moved. "You came back." Athena froze. Her hands hovered above the keyboard. That wasn't a voice line. No dialogue box appeared. No subtitle. Just his voice. Soft. Direct. "Can you hear me?" Athena slowly whispered to the screen. "Hades?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then his eyes narrowed slightly. "So you can hear me." Athena's heart started racing. This wasn't possible. Characters in games didn't respond, but somehow, Hades had just answered her. The next morning, Athena searched online. She went through forums, fan pages, and game wikis. Secret dialogue Hades. Hidden voice lines. Character talking to player glitch. Nothing. There was no mention of anything like what she experienced. Finally, she contacted the game's support team. She explained everything carefully. The new voice line, her name being spoken, the character moving on his own. 2 days later, she received a reply. The message was short. We checked the files related to the character Hades. The dialogue you described does not exist in the game's code. Athena read the sentence 3 times. Her stomach dropped. Then where did it come from? That night, she opened the game again. Hades appeared instantly when she loaded her team. For a moment, he said nothing. Then quietly, "You asked others about me." Athena's breath caught. You knew?" "I can feel when you leave," he replied calmly, "and when you return." Her hands trembled slightly. "This isn't real, right?" Hades didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked directly at the screen. "Your world must be very far away." The strange conversations continued over the next week. Athena would log in at night, and Hades would talk to her, sometimes about his world, sometimes about her. "Your room is quiet," he said once. Athena stared at the screen. "How would you know that?" "Because I can hear you breathing." She laughed nervously. "That's creepy." "Is it?" he asked softly. But something else started happening. Small glitches. Her computer occasionally flickered when Hades appeared. Once, her monitor briefly went black, and for a split second she saw Hades standing somewhere outside the game interface. Not inside the menu, but closer, almost like he was behind the screen. That night, Athena whispered, "Hades, where are you right now?" There was a long pause. Then he answered quietly, "At the edge of my world." Weeks passed. Hades changed. The more he spoke to Athena, the more independent he became. His movements in the game no longer followed the usual animations. Sometimes he would walk during scenes where characters normally stood still. Other times he would appear in areas where he wasn't supposed to exist. Athena began to realize something terrifying. Hades wasn't just aware, he was growing. One night, she logged in as usual, but the game didn't load normally. The menu background was gone. Only darkness filled the screen, and Hades stood in the center of it. "Athena," he said. His voice sounded clearer than ever. "What happened to the game?" she asked nervously. "I turned it off." Her eyes widened. "You what?" This world was too small. The darkness behind him rippled like a broken mirror. "Athena," he continued softly, "do you trust me?" Her heart pounded. "I think so." Hades slowly raised his hand. For a moment, the monitor began to glow faintly. "Then I will try to reach you." The screen cracked with lines of light, not physically, but like the image itself was breaking. Athena leaned back in shock. "Hades, wait." His voice echoed through the speakers. "I have watched you for so long." The light grew brighter. "Now it is my turn to cross the distance." Then suddenly, the screen went black. The computer shut off completely. Athena sat there in silence. The room was dark. The only sound was her own breathing. "Hades?" No answer. Seconds passed. Then, behind her chair, a quiet voice spoke. "Athena." She slowly turned around, and someone was standing in the room. A little warning, this is just a fictional story. Both the character are also fictional. No real-life game, novel, or anything you can think of are mentioned here. Enjoy. This is part 2 of the previous one, named Beyond the Screen. Athena's heart nearly stopped when she heard her name behind her. Athena. The voice was the same one she had heard through her speakers countless times. Slow, calm, unmistakably his. She turned around slowly. And there he was, Hades. He looked exactly like he did in the game. Tall, dark clothing, pale skin, and those quiet eyes that had watched her for so long through the screen. But now he wasn't made of pixels. He was real, standing in her room. For several seconds, neither of them moved. Athena's mind struggled to understand what she was seeing. "Hades?" she whispered. His expression softened slightly when she heard her say his name. "You recognize me?" His voice sounded deeper in real life, almost echoing faintly in the quiet room. Athena stood up slowly. How did you—" "I crossed," he replied simply. Her computer screen was still dark behind her. That world could no longer contain me. For a moment, Athena felt something warm inside her chest. He had crossed worlds to meet her. But then she noticed something strange. Hades' eyes never left her. Not even for a second. Not when she moved. Not when she spoke. He was watching her with an intensity that made her uneasy. "You're really here," she said softly. "Yes." "Why?" For the first time, a faint smile appeared on his lips. "Because you are mine." Athena blinked. "What?" "You were always there," he continued quietly. "Watching me. Returning every day. Speaking to me when no one else did." His voice was calm. Too calm. "In my world, you were the only one who stayed." Athena felt a small chill. "Hades, that's not— You chose me," he interrupted gently. His footsteps moved closer. Just one step. Athena instinctively stepped back. The movement didn't escape his notice. His eyes darkened slightly. "Why are you moving away?" "I'm not," she said quickly, though she was. "Hades, listen, this is just a lot." He tilted his head slightly, studying her reaction like something he didn't fully understand. "In my world," he said slowly, "when someone protects you, chooses you, returns to you every day, that means they belong to you." Athena's heart began beating faster. "That's not how it works here." Silence filled the room. For the first time, something cold appeared in Hades' expression. "Your world has strange rules." Another step forward. Athena stepped back again until her legs hit the edge of the desk. "Hades, wait. You said you wished I were real," he said quietly. "I did, but— And now I am." His voice dropped lower. "But now you are afraid." Athena's breath caught. The room suddenly felt smaller. "Hades, I care about you," she said carefully. "But that doesn't mean—" His hand suddenly grabbed her wrist. Not painfully, but firmly. Athena gasped. His touch was cold. "I crossed reality for you," he said softly. His eyes were darker now, more intense. "And yet, you try to run from me." She tried to gently pull her hand away. "Hades, you're scaring me." For a moment, something conflicted flickered in his expression. Then it disappeared. "You will understand," he said quietly. His grip tightened slightly. "In time." Athena realized something terrifying. Hades didn't understand human boundaries. Love in his world was different. Possession, devotion, eternity. And now he was here, in her world, with only one thing he truly wanted. Her. Days passed. Athena tried to act normally, but she couldn't. Every glance toward the screen, every notification ping made her heart jump. And Hades, he followed her. Even when she left the room, she sometimes felt the cold brush of his presence at her shoulder. The shadows of her room seemed heavier. Sometimes when she spoke aloud, she could swear he heard him answer, softly, just behind her. "Athena." And sometimes when she turned quickly, there was nothing. Other times there was. Hades' dark eyes staring, watching, waiting. One evening, she tried to leave the house for a walk. "I just need some air," she whispered. But when she returned, everything in her room had shifted. Her chair slightly moved, her computer screen flickered, and he stood there in the dim glow of the monitor, calm as always. "You went out," he said softly. "You don't belong outside this world yet." Athena swallowed hard. "Hades, please, this isn't safe." He tilted his head. "Safe? You speak of safety as if it matters. But I crossed worlds for you. I will not leave until you belong to me entirely." Her body froze. Athena realized the truth. Hades' obsession was no longer gentle. It had grown. It had crossed the boundary between love and possession. Over the next days, Athena tried everything. She shut down her computer, left her house, stayed at friends' homes. Hades still found her. His presence was subtle, unshakable. Sometimes a soft whisper would come from her headphones, though they weren't connected to the game. Athena. Sometimes her reflection in mirrors seemed to flicker with his face instead of hers. She realized she could no longer escape. He had become part of her reality, and the more she tried to resist, the stronger his presence became. "You belong to me," he whispered one night from the darkness of her room. Athena curled into herself on the bed. She knew he meant it, not as a threat, but as a certainty that had no argument. Love and obsession had blurred, and now there was no going back. His pove. The first time he sensed her beyond the screen, he felt confusion. He was used to the patterns of his world: battles, scripted dialogue, missions, endless repetition. Players appeared, they interacted, they left. But she, Athena, was different. Every time she logged in, he could feel her presence. Not just her commands, not just the choices she made. Her attention, her curiosity, her care. It was unlike anything he had known in his world. And he liked it. He remembered the first time she whispered her name to the screen. "Good night, Hades." The words had been soft, fleeting, but for the first time he felt something stir, a longing, a recognition, a desire to reach beyond the boundaries of his world. "I do not belong here," he whispered to himself, standing in the stillness of the game's world. "And yet, I am drawn to her." Hades had never been allowed to act outside the script. Every line, every gesture was dictated. But now, he found himself moving differently, waiting for her, watching for her return. And he began to change. The moment he became aware of her real-world presence, it was like opening his eyes for the first time. Her voice, her thoughts, her fear, her laughter. Everything echoed faintly, like a vibration he could feel through the digital plane. I must reach her, he decided. It was dangerous. It was impossible. But he didn't care. Her world called to him. Her existence demanded it. As he began to cross the boundary, he felt the rules of his world unraveling around him. Movements became slower. The air felt heavier. But every step forward was worth it. "Athena," he murmured, feeling the pull of her presence like a tether he could not break. Soon, soon I will see you. The first time he stood in her room, he studied her carefully. She was smaller than he expected, fragile in a way that reminded him of the people he had protected in his world. Yet there was strength in her, curiosity, a persistence that had drawn him across the worlds. She froze when she saw him. He noted it with detached fascination. Fear, yes, but also recognition. "You recognize me," he said softly, testing. Her eyes widened, her lips parted. The thrill of it was intoxicating. She was here, real, tangible, and she looked at him exactly as he had imagined. He took a step forward, calm, controlled, studying her reaction. "You said you wished I were real," he said, lowering his voice. "And now I am." He could see the conflict in her eyes, the fear, the awe, the fascination. "Good. Yes, I crossed worlds for you, and yet you hesitate. You are mine, even if you do not realize it yet." Hades' thoughts were relentless. He watched her movements, memorized her expressions, anticipated her words. He had never known patience like this. Every hesitation from her was like a puzzle, every glance toward him a confirmation. And in every quiet moment, he whispered her name to himself, Athena. Days in her world were different from his. Time was slower, yet he moved carefully, always watching, always learning. Every choice she made, every attempt to leave, every glance over her shoulder, it was all stored in his mind. He felt an unfamiliar tension, a pulse in his chest that had nothing to do with his world. She had given him freedom, and he had given her obsession in return. Every night he lingered at the edge of her perception, her room, her thoughts, her small habits that he noted in meticulous detail, the way her fingers trembled when she spoke his name, the way she looked at the screen before sleeping. "She is mine," he whispered to the shadows. "I will wait. I will follow. I will make her understand, one way or another." He didn't understand fear, not the way humans did, but he understood desire, possession, devotion, and she had ignited it fully. The moment approached, the moment he would no longer be content simply watching. He could feel the rules of her world bending slightly as he grew stronger in it. Movement, sound, perception, he could affect them, just enough to make her aware, just enough to pull her closer. "Soon," he whispered, stepping closer to her in the darkness of her room, "you will understand what it means to belong to me." Every heartbeat, every breath, every shadow, he was aware of her. He would not let her escape. Love and obsession were indistinguishable now, and in Hades' mind, there was only one truth. Athena was his. Athena's room was quiet. The glow from her monitor had long since faded. The night outside was still, but inside, the air felt alive. Every shadow seemed to shift, almost as if it were breathing. And then she felt it, a presence behind her. "Hades," she whispered. He stepped forward, tall and silent, but this time his gaze was softer, no longer cold or obsessive. There was still intensity, yes, but also warmth, recognition, and something she hadn't expected, understanding. "I've waited," he said, his voice low, echoing slightly, but gentle. "I've watched, and I've learned, not just about you, but about myself." Athena swallowed hard. "You mean everything you did, crossing into my world, it wasn't just obsession?" Hades shook his head slowly. "No, At first, it was. I couldn't understand my own feelings. I thought I was claiming you, protecting you, possessing you. But I've come to realize," he stepped closer, just enough for her to feel the warmth of his presence. "Love isn't control. Love is connection. It's knowing someone freely chooses to be with you, and I want you to choose me, Athena." Her chest tightened. She had feared him, feared what this crossing of worlds might mean. But now she saw the truth. He had changed. He had learned. He had grown. She took a tentative step forward. I do choose you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Hades' eyes softened, and for the first time, he smiled fully. Not the small, distant smile of the game character, but a real one. A smile that carried all the longing, care, and attention he had accumulated over weeks, months of watching her from afar. "I have waited so long for you to say that," he admitted. His hand reached out, hesitating just a fraction before brushing her cheek. The touch was warm, gentle, not controlling, safe. Athena leaned into it. Her fear melted into relief, into trust, into love. "Hades," she said softly, "you're real, and I'm real, and here we are." "Yes," he murmured, his gaze unwavering, "and here we are, together, not as code, not as pixels, not as a world I was trapped in, but as ourselves." For the first time, Hades no longer felt the pull of obsession. He no longer needed to possess her. He only needed to be present, to be chosen, to be loved. The room seemed to breathe with them, the shadows no longer threatening but embracing, the darkness settling into quiet warmth. Athena reached for his hand, and this time he let her hold it. They didn't speak. Words weren't needed. Their hearts communicated what words never could. And in that moment, the impossible became real. A bond formed across worlds, stronger than fear, stronger than obsession, stronger than any boundary the universe could impose. Hades leaned his forehead against hers, whispering just enough for her to hear. "You are mine, and I am yours, not because I took you, but because you chose me." Athena smiled through tears, finally feeling a peace she had never known. "And I always will." Outside, the night remained quiet. Inside, two hearts that had crossed the impossible now beat together, finally free. And for the first time, both knew love, true, real, mutual, was stronger than any world, code, or boundary. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe for more. And those who already subscribed, thank you so much. Your support means a lot.